area is right here next to the pavilion. And however, during that time, we will have the volunteer from the
I'm the fill-in. As you know, that the Honourable Prime Minister was going to be the chief guest in doing the opening remarks. Unfortunately, he could not be here. He's actually in Lambasa this morning speaking to another group of esteemed people, and they're teachers and high school teachers who are also very important to the government's vision in terms of implementing and creating a set of rules and processes and a structure for a modern 21st Fijian society. I, in fact, just scratched some notes this morning, and I rang up the president last night. I said, you know, what do you want me to say? And so I said, look, what is the theme of the conference? And he said, well, connecting the biggest minds. So I said, why are we being invited? But it reminded me of one of the sort of few English philosophers that I can appeal to, or I can identify with, Bertrand Russell. And Bertrand Russell had said back in the 18th century, he said that a genius with a brilliant idea at the wrong time is considered a madman, but an ordinary person with the same idea at the right time is considered a genius. So I think there are many things in life that we do, many ideas that do exist, whether from the last century, whether from 5 years or 10 years ago. There are many, many good ideas. The issue, of course, is about implementation. The crux of it is how do you implement it, and your ability to have an understanding and taking a holistic perspective as to what will be the impact of such an idea. I can see from the list of speakers, you obviously have a wide range of very esteemed speakers who will be talking in the respective areas. But what I thought I'd do, because I have to speak again tomorrow morning, and I have a sort of specific area that I'd like to address, a couple of areas, more sort of technical areas, in particular given the recent case involving FERCA. But what I wanted to highlight again is just probably recap in terms of where we were when we last met at the Sheraton and where we are today. Since we last met, we've had the most devastating cyclone ever that hit Fiji. 44 Fijians lost their lives, which is the highest death toll ever from a natural disaster. We had over $1.4 billion US dollars worth of losses as estimated by the post-disaster assessment team, which consisted of the World Bank, DFAT from Australia, the European Union, and various other agencies. Since then, of course, we've had something like 226 schools that were damaged, some of them partially, some of them completely, some of them somewhat superficially, but nonetheless, all of them need repairs. Since then, of course, we've had our fiscal year change in Fiji. As you know, our fiscal year for government used to be the calendar year, but now it's from August, 1st of August till 31 July. Since then, of course, we've had the new budget that's been announced for the beginning of the 1st of August. And we've had the biggest rebuild program. We have, in fact, over $205 million that have been allocated, which is a large sum of money, which has contributed to 4.7% budget deficit for the rebuild program. 135 million of that goes towards rebuilding the schools that have been damaged. The rest of it will be for a rehabilitation of crops, rehabilitation of various other processes, farming implements, and in fact, building of health centers, building of other facilities like civil servants' quarters out in the rural areas. All of that combined, we have a spend of $205 million. That is a huge ask. In particular, when it's on the back of an already very robust construction industry, where there's huge demands placed on construction companies, on tradespeople, on skilled tradespeople, And that is a huge challenge for all of us. We have the AFL rebuild, we have the MOMI rebuild, if you like, or rehabilitation of MOMI, various other private sector investment projects that was already on foot. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this sort of era of rebuilding, there is also, and as even prior to the cyclone, perhaps more marked now, we need to be very vigilant about things like making sure we have a competitive environment, about ensuring that we have very good modern day practices and that we still adhere to international practices, and that the professions actually do their job in the manner that they're supposed to. Because when you have a huge rebuild program, we can sometimes get out of kilter in respect of how do we deliver the services. I would like to take this opportunity also to thank all of you who actually participated by contributing to the budget consultations. As you remember last year when we were at the Sheraton, we did say that we will reach out to you, and in fact we sent out an email to all those of you who were below the age of 40. It's not age discrimination, but it's basically a recognition of the fact that those people who are below the age of 40 in the profession were once perhaps who weren't necessarily, partners in the law firms, etc. But we wanted to reach out to the younger population. In Fiji today, you may not realize this, but 69.6% of our total population is below the age of 40. That's a huge number, a huge percentage. It has various challenges, but also at the same time various opportunities that arise from having such a demographic situation. What that means is, perhaps it goes to your topic, that I think it is one of the former Indian presidents who said that the youth are always the fire belly of any nation. It's how you manage that fire belly is the trick. If you see various revolutions throughout the world, if you see various changes in any society, it's generally led by the youth. But also at the same time, if that energy, if that fire belly is harnessed properly, it can provide the greatest impetus to any society in terms of innovation, in terms of creation, in terms of new ideas, indeed in the ability to adapt to technology and indeed create technology, which is very, very critical. Ladies and gentlemen, what we also wanted to talk to you about today, just highlight to you, is that there are various incentives that we put in place, a whole plethora of incentives that were announced in the budget, including assistance to employers to be able to hire more people with 200% tax rebates that are being given if you hire new people, if you are able to also at the same time provide upskilling of your employees whilst they're working for you, for them to get further qualification. We also give further tax rebates on that. And the whole idea is to again harness that opportunity. We have said previously that Australia and New Zealand has been the beneficiary of many of the mines that have left Fiji, either in particular post-1987 and 2000. And there was a culture of that, to educate people, get the qualifications in Fiji, and then you go off to greener pastures. What we do need to do is try and arrest that situation, and in fact that has already started happening. We are seeing a number of people who are coming back to Fiji because of the fact, partially, because we have a legal framework now where we allow for multiple citizenships, for a person to be able to hold multiple citizenships. So many people still have a close affinity to Fiji. They still regard Fiji as home. Some have, of course, gone off to perhaps do better. But on the other hand, there are many people who believe that Fiji also is providing that economic opportunity for them, financial opportunity for them to do well. I'll tell you a very small story. A few months ago, I was in Auckland and with my wife, and then we were staying in one of the apartments in Queen Street, and we went down to Coles to get some dinner, and I was walking past and this person said to me, "Hey, Bulla." And I turned around and saw him. He said, in fact, he used to work for Tropic Wood. I see a face there. He used to work for Tropic Wood, and he was a electrician. He said, "I've just been hired by a New Zealand firm, they're recruiting people, He said, I get paid about $18 an hour. He said, even though I should be getting paid 24 because the local guys are getting paid 24. Nonetheless, it's more than what I am getting back home. And I intend to be here for 3 years, work my butt off, and then go back home and open my new electrical store. He said, because there's a lot of opportunities, there's a shortage of electricians. And in fact, in Fiji at the moment, the electricians are being paid about $12 or $13 an hour. And nobody a few years ago would have even dreamed that electricians in Fiji would be getting $12 or $13 an hour. So there's a lot of changes within society that is taking place, a lot of changes taking place within the workplace, a lot of changes taking place in respect to the technical skill sets that are required. When we had the budget consultations, we also for the first time reached out to high school students. It was very important for us because both from a philosophical perspective and also from a very practical perspective. And there a lot of submissions were made. And as you know that in Fiji, in the Toppers Scholarship, we have a huge focus on giving scholarships for people who do science subjects, who do non-legal accounting work. We have a shortage of, for example, speech therapists. We have a shortage of town planners, land surveyors, doctors, nurses, various other professions, marine scientists. So if you actually focus on those areas, and if you're in high school and you apply for one of those, those areas of study, you will get a scholarship from the 600 toppers. But one of the very strong submissions that did come out from the student consultations was there were still many people who still wanted to do, perhaps because of family pressure, or perhaps because it's quite trendy to be an accountant or an economist. So we have in fact increased the number of scholarships now available. It's gone from 600 to 630 to allow for more room for people to be able to do studies in the area of accounting, etc. I have to say with the civil service reforms, one of the things that we have discovered also is a huge, and this is my plug for many of you who may want to leave your employers and come and work for government. We have a huge shortage of highly skilled sets in government civil service. To give you an example, in the Ministry of Economy, formerly Ministry of Finance, we have at the moment only 2 people with CA qualifications, and we have only 1 person with CPA. Only 1 person with CPA in the whole of government, which is actually quite tragic when you think about it. So we want more of you to come across to the right side of life and to join us. And of course, as you know, that we are restructuring the civil service, which also means restructuring the salary structures, etc. But ladies and gentlemen, it does go to show that when you have a key partner in the economy, which is government, that is going to deliver services, that is going to interact with you, we need the right people to work also within government. And it is also a very critical need, similarly, that those people who do work in government get rewarded for performance. There has been a culture generally in Fiji, unfortunately, across the board, and more so perhaps in government, that we do not necessarily recognize high performers. That advancements in the civil service have been made because of your number of years you've spent within the service, as opposed to somebody who may be extremely bright, who may have a big mind, and is able to think outside the box and is performing very well, to be able to go up the rung or skip a few rungs and to be able to take control of a particular department or indeed a particular ministry. And that is very, very critical. I think I'd like to also perhaps highlight very, very quickly that there are great opportunities in Fiji at the moment. And in fact, those great opportunities can be further enhanced if we are able to focus, given the theme of the topic, on rewarding people not based on mediocrity, but also on people who are, as I've said, high performers. We need to be able to recognize that. We need to be able to reward that, whether it's in the private sector, whether it's in the public sector. We need to be able to also at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, lift up the level of professionalism that exists in Fiji. Whether it is in the hotel industry as to how the waiter cleans the table or the waitress cleans the table, whether it is the person who may be providing accounting services or legal services, whether it's more disclosures, whether it's the level of interaction between accounting firms and legal firms, between engineering firms, how you deal with your clients. There is enormous opportunity to lift up the services. There is enormous opportunity, and we must do that in the way, for example, utility companies, FEA, Water Authority of Fiji, how we actually deal with our customers, how we deal with our clients. FEA, Water Authority of Fiji should not say, well, you know, we are a monopolistic position. We are the only people who can supply water, so, you know, bugger you, you have to wait for us. No, the service level must increase. The service level of FEA must increase. The service level of FRA in terms of, for example, giving approvals for approving development plans must increase. Everywhere there's room for improvement. Everywhere, it's in the slightest thing. Is the example that I gave. You know, normally when you go by the roadside, people are selling boo or, you know, the green coconut. And there are some people now who actually, when you go to buy the coconut, they actually take off the green husk around it. Some actually give you a straw. And they ask you, do you want an additional straw because somebody else is with you? This is value adding. This is also in terms of improving the level of service. So you're attracting also the tourists. In the same way, you may be carrying out your business the way you're dealing with your clients. There may be a need, apart from just the standard sending out of Christmas cards every year, which everybody does, you know, in terms of how you communicate with them. Banks need to improve their quality of service. Insurance companies most certainly need to improve their quality of service. And that's obviously a discussion that we are having at the moment with the insurance companies, and there have been various forums held for that. So the message, ladies and gentlemen, is that we need to be able to tap into the intellect that exists. We need to be at the same time be able to tap into the experiences that exist, individual and collectively also. Because Fiji is really on the cusp of an economic revolution, if you like. There are many areas that people are now investing in, thinking of investing in. We've had 7 years of sustained economic growth, notwithstanding the fact we had the largest cyclone that hit Fiji. Indeed, it's the second largest cyclone that ever hit any land in any part of the world. Notwithstanding all of this, we still have this wonderful trajectory that we can be on, and in fact, it can be even greatly enhanced if we all, as individual professional bodies, individual professions, are able to harness that energy, are able to tap into that, and also to think collectively. I mean, as was highlighted by the president of the Fijian branch of CPA, the Olympic gold medal win, I mean, if you see the euphoria and the enthusiasm and the collectiveness of the entire nation, the way it came together was phenomenal. But it also goes to show that Fiji can be very much bound by a one collective vision. And there's the ability to harness that energy. And if we all thought about it individually, whether it stems from the fact that when you're driving along and your kid throws the Twisties packet out the window, you can see so much rubbish. I mean, recently there was a PhD student at USP who's doing some background, who's doing her research here, and she's from the West Indies. And she said, you're a beautiful country, but you people really don't know how to look after your environment. It was actually quite telling. Very simple thing, but it's actually quite telling. And unfortunately, I think that stems from the fact that we take it for granted. That we think, we have the president of CPA Australia telling us what a beautiful country it is, and everybody wants to come to Fiji. We think, great. But the fact is, there is work involved in it. And that work is not much of a work if we all individually did our part, and collectively we'll have a wonderful result. So these are the very simple things that we can all do individually as professionals, and also in your organizations, and also as a country. I think it is a wonderful thing that was always raised about social corporate responsibility. There's various global compacts that have been done by transnational companies. And one of the areas that we just yesterday talking to the new UN resident coordinator for the Office of the Human Rights Commission of the UN, And she made a very valid point, and we'd like to sort of discuss that further. Whether companies in Fiji have actually come together, not regulated, but from a social perspective, and said that these are the standards of behavior that we will have. These are the areas of focus that we will have in respect of perhaps, carrying out the social responsibility. Because if any assistance by a non-governmental organization, I talk in the wider context of that, whether it's banks, etc., if that supplements and complements what the overall government policy is, then we will be able to achieve that objective a lot quicker. And I think it's that complementarity that is perhaps sometimes lacking in Fiji. So ladies and gentlemen, it's a wonderful time, as our Honourable Prime Minister said, to be in Fiji. It's a wonderful time to grab a hold of those opportunities. And if we are able to individually improve ourselves as individual citizens, as in our professions, in our organizations, and as a Fijian, then of course the opportunities we have is just boundless. So I wish you a very good conference, workshop. I look forward to meeting many of you throughout the next 2 days. And unfortunately, you'll have to hear me again tomorrow morning. Punaka, and have a good day. Thanks.